Hi, this is Mr. Hutchings of Mr. Hutchings History, and today I'm bringing you the exchange in the Indian Ocean, Unit 2.3 of the AP World History program. And so today we're going to look at how trade exchanged in the Indian Ocean, and we're going to focus on the skill of making connections. And our themes will be economic systems, cultural developments, and interactions, humans, and the environment. Let's begin with a line from a hadith, a saying a tribute to the Prophet Muhammad. Seek knowledge, even to China. This advice inspired generations of Muslims to travel and learn. And long before armies or missionaries carried Islam eastward, Muslim merchants already had. Through markets, bargaining, and conversation, they created the first truly global network, Dar al Islam, the House of Islam, stretching from North Africa to South Asia. Think about that. Armies conquer, but merchants connect, and those connections last. What do you think is more powerful in spreading ideas, armies or merchants? Well, armies conquer, but merchants settle, marry, and blend culture. That's why trade often spreads ideas more deeply than war. Today, we'll trace how Muslim merchants, sailing technology, and environmental knowledge transformed the Indian Ocean into one of history's great highways of exchange. So let's look at our causes of expanded exchange. South Asia at the center. If you look at a map, India sits like a hinge between East and West. To the west, Arabia, Africa, and Europe. To the east, China and Southeast Asia. Almost every sea route passed by India. That geography made Indian ports global hubs. Calicut, Cambay became crossroads where Arab, Persian, Chinese, and Southeast Asian merchants traded. Spices, cotton cloth, silk, ivory, all converged here. Local rulers welcomed merchants with safe harbors and protections. Wealth and prestige followed. Why did trade expand after 1200? Stability. Like the Mongols on the Silk Roads, regional powers such as the Delhi Sultanate and the Chola dynasty protected ports. There was merchant innovation. Indian bankers created credit systems. Arab sailors improved ships and navigations. There was rising demand. Europeans craved pepper and cotton. China wanted horses, gems, and spices. There was the monsoons, steady seasonal winds which carried merchants out in winter and home in summer. Merchants often stayed for months waiting for the winds. They didn't just pass through, they settled, married, and built communities. That's why the Indian Ocean trade left such a deep cultural footprint. Calicut and Cambay, two ports, show us the pattern. Calicut on the Malabar coast, ruled by the Zamorians, it became famous for pepper, so prized it was called black gold. Ships from Arabia, Africa, and China crowded its harbors. The city buzzed with Arabic, Persian, Tamil, and Chinese traders who all came to make their fortunes. Cambay in Gujarat, less about spices, more about textiles. Cotton cloth woven here reached Africa, the Middle East, and beyond. Cambay also became a financial hub. Loans, credit, and banking supported global trade. Together, these cities weren't passive stops, they were engines of exchange, drawn in goods, people, and culture. Daily life in Indian ocean city ports, the life in these ports were cosmopolitan. Arab merchants built homes and mosques near the docks. Chinese sailors formed guilds and temples. Indian artisans sold pottery, textiles, and food. People ate local curries with imported figs or dates. Months of waiting for the winds meant merchants raised families, passed down languages, and left behind lasting influences, like Swahili on the African coast or Islamic style mosques in Kerala. These weren't just trade posts, they were global neighborhoods where people reshaped one another's cultures. There was governance in the ports. Why did merchants trust these cities? Because rulers knew trade was power. The Zamorin's of Calicut patrolled waters against pirates, set fair taxes, and made sure Muslims, Hindus, and Chinese merchants all felt welcome. In Cambay, rulers worked with merchant guilds, gave privileges to bankers, and invested in roads and caravan routes inland. Diversity wasn't a liability, it was an asset. Every mosque or guild hall tied the city into a global network. Islam spread across the sea. Islam gave Indian Ocean trade a unifying framework. Sharia law meant contracts could be trusted. A Muslim merchant in Cairo could do business in Calicut with confidence. This created a maritime Dar al-Islam, a house of Islam, on water. Mosques, qadis, or judges, and Sufi mystics anchored communities from Africa to Indonesia. Merchants didn't conquer, they settled. That's why Islam spread not only by sermons, but by families planting roots. Diasporic Muslim communities existed on the Swahili Coast. Arabs married Africans, blending traditions into Swahili culture and language. In India, Muslim traders lived alongside Hindus and Jains, building mosques and schools. In Southeast Asia, marriage alliances spread Islam into local elites. The Sultanate of Malacca, founded in the 1440s, grew into a powerful hub by linking trade and Islamic legitimacy. These communities weren't colonies, they were bridges, blending global Islam with local traditions. There was increased demand for specialized products. Each region offered unique products. India offered cotton textiles, steel, pepper. Indonesia and Malaysia offered nutmeg, cloves, and cinnamon. The Swahili Coast offered gold, ivory, enslaved people. China offered silk, porcelain. Arabia and Persia both offered horses, figs, and dates. Together, these formed the world's first truly interdependent economy. A sultan in Cairo might eat with Chinese porcelain, wear Indian cotton, and ride an Arabian horse, all in one day. Moving towards environmental knowledge, the monsoons. The monsoons were the engine. In winter, northeast winds carried ships to Africa. In summer, southwest winds brought them back to India and beyond. Monsoons were predictable, reliable, but unforgiving if misjudged. Sail too early, and you stalled at sea. Sail too late, and storms wrecked fleets. Merchants waited months in port, which is why diasporic communities grew. So, which offered merchants more security? The Mongols' roads or the Indian Ocean's monsoons? Truth is, both mattered. But while empires rise and fall, the winds were eternal. That gave merchants long term confidence. Technology and states. Maritime technology was impactful to the Indian trade. To ride the monsoons, merchants needed ships and tools. The Lateen sail, triangular, could tack against the wind. The sternpost rudder, perfected by the Chinese, steering even massive junks. Dhows, sturdy Arab and Swahili cargo ships. The Astrolabe and compass allowed sailors to chart latitude and direction across open seas. Trade spread not only goods, but also technology itself. Arab sails on Chinese ships, Persian pilots using Chinese compasses. This led to the growth of states. Strategic geography bred powerful states. Malacca controlled the state of Malacca. Whoever passed paid custom fees. Its rulers built a navy, welcomed merchants, and protected Islam. In 1511, the Portuguese seized it, trying to dominate trade. The Kilwa dynasty projected naval power from South India, patrolling the Bay of Bengal. Swahili Coast, Kilwa, Mombasa, and Zanzibar controlled inland gold and ivory routes. Hormuz taxed every ship entering the Arab Gulf. The pattern? Geography plus trade routes equaled wealth and power. Think Constantinople, Panama Canal. Control the choke points and you control global flows. Moving to the effects of expanded exchange, the diasporic communities, being merchants, staying in foreign ports, reshaped cultures. Arabs in Africa created Swahili. Chinese in Southeast Asia formed enclaves. Jewish traders linked Europe, North Africa, and India. Trade spread Islam more through families and daily life than conquest. The Swahili city-states, Kilwa, Mombasa, Zanzibar, gateways between Africa's interior and the ocean. Caravans brought gold, ivory, and enslaved people from the inland. In return came Chinese porcelain, Indian cotton, and Arab glassware. The Swahili language blended Bantu and Arabic. Coral stone mosques still stand. Archaeology confirms Chinese porcelain was used in local homes, not just passing through, but integrated. In the political life, no empire, just city-states ruled by merchant elites. Rivalries kept them flexible but vulnerable, especially when the Portuguese arrived in the 1500s. In daily life, artisans, sailors, farmers, all tied into global trade. Religion blended Islam with African traditions, creating a distinct coastal culture. Zheng He's voyages. In the early 1400s, Ming China launched something extraordinary. Admiral Zheng He, a Muslim eunuch, commanded fleets of treasure ships, massive, multi-decked vessels carrying tens of thousands. He sailed to Southeast Asia, India, Arabia, and East Africa. Everywhere he went, he staged diplomatic theater, lavish gifts out, tribute in. He even brought back giraffes to Beijing. The voyages boosted trade, secured routes, and showcased China's wealth. But Confucian officials saw them as wasteful. When the Yongle emperor died, the voyages ended. That choice left the seas open for new powers, like the Portuguese, to dominate later. Comparing Zheng He and the Portuguese, Zheng He, massive fleets, prestige diplomacy, short-lived because the state ended it. Portuguese, smaller fleets, but driven by profit and cannons. They seized ports, built fortresses, and imposed control. China had the technology, but not the will. Portugal had fewer resources, but stayed for centuries. So let's focus on our historical thinking. Let's focus on the historical thinking. Let's connect. Comparison. Silk roads relied on political stability, Indian Ocean on natural monsoons. Causation. China's withdrawal after Zheng He led to piracy and Portuguese dominance. Continuity and change. Indian Ocean trade thrived before and after Islam, but Islam expanded its reach and prestige. Think to yourself and ask. Think to yourself and make one connection: comparison, cause and effect, or continuity and change. That's what you'll be asked to do on the AP World exam. The Indian Ocean wasn't an empty sea, it was a highway. Economics: cotton weavers in India, spice growers in Indonesia, gold miners in Africa, all tied together. Culture: Islam spread through merchants and diasporas. A giraffe even walked into the Ming court. Environment: trade rode the rhythm of the monsoons. If you're watching this, do a little practice yourself. Write 3 sentences. One cause of Indian Ocean trade expansion, one effect, one historical connection to another system. In our next video, we'll shift from the seas to the sands, following camel caravans across the Sahara. Until then, stay curious, history matters.